Blog Talk Radio.
This is the News in 10 from Bostonred on the World on the 25th of August 2013. We'll start this off with some coverage out of Berlin from Der Spiegel, the German magazine. Some of the information provided by Ed Snowden to the extent in which the U.S. Through their NSA actually spied on the UN. And this is from the Al Jazeera organization here, and I'll just read it. It said the extent of U.S. covert surveillance at the UN was further detailed on Sunday, according to reports that the agency hacked into video conferencing and developments and further strained relations between Washington and its allies. The Spiegel said secret documents obtained from Ed Snowden showed how the NSA systematically spied on other states and institutions. The European Union, the UN Vienna-based watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Commission were among those targeted by U.S. intelligence. In the summer of 2012, NSA experts succeeded in getting into the UN video conferencing system and cracking its code system, according to one document cited by the Spiegel. The data traffic gives us internal video conferencing of the UN. The Spiegel quoted one document as saying, adding that within 3 weeks, the number of decoded conversations rose to 458 from 12. Internal files also show the NSA spied on the EU legation in New York. That has long been the case. It involved, after it moved to new rooms in the autumn of 2012, among documents copied by Snowden from the NSA computers are plans for the EU's mission, its IT infrastructure and servers. In other words, if you know where the servers are, you know quite a bit about the operation. You can then target those servers. That's according to perhaps an urban legend put out during the campaign here in the U.S. of the Republican candidate Willard Romney. The Republicans had used a number of servers in the southern state of Tennessee to effectively offload data from Ohio. They had done it before in 2004. That was the re-election of the American President G.W. Bush. And it would only be for a minute or so, and they'd come back with a complete data set. But this time around, they were locked out of their own service, so they could not perform the miracle. But as it turned out, it would not have helped the GOP to falsify the election results in Ohio. They had more problems than just that. I'll continue on here. According to documents, the NSA runs a bugging program in more than 80 embassies. Consulates worldwide called Special Collection Services. The surveillance is intensive and well organized and has little or nothing to do with warding off terrorism. There's, of course, deep concern and embarrassment that this has come out. More concern, I would say, than embarrassment on the part of the U.S. A week ago, the U.K., a staunch ally in the intelligence field, detained the partner of Mr. Greenwald. He's a journalist working out of Brazil with The Guardian. That is David Miranda there, saying that he carried highly sensitive information. We doubt very seriously if he was carrying highly sensitive information, but it was more of a intimidation situation. Also, they destroyed some hard drives at The Guardian newspaper. Now, that is in London. And it goes on to various other sundry people here in Finland, in Sweden, etc., in Denmark, and the president here, according to this article, Barack Obama, said they'll limit some of their surveillance. Now, here's the problem with the surveillance. I've worked in IT for a number of years, starting in the pre-90s. But it has always been the situation that many of these programs have always been infiltrated, and what is happening now with something that's called big data, that it's much easier to get in and pool massive quantities of data, tap millions of phone lines or into conversations, I should say. And this is not limited to so-called metadata either. This is other sorts of things going on, like free-hop technology. What that basically means is if they are targeting A, they can then have the conversations of A and A's associates, and then go to the associates and target B and C. And after they've got taken care of B and C, they can then go to D and E. So that's basically free-hop technology. That's a lot of people involved there. You do the math. If there's 25 people or even 10 people on the list of A and 10 people on the list of B and then 10 on C and D and so forth and so on, and you could recast that, and you basically have what we used in the old days to organize, called a phone tree. But this is not a phone tree. It is something totally different from a phone tree. Let us continue on here. Now to the inspection regime, and you'll hear a little bit from General Powell and I believe it is Senator Reid, who's a senior senator in the U.S., on the Assyrian situation in Syria. Now basically here's what's happened. The U.S. is conceding that the UN inspections there will not find fault in the Syrian government led by President Bashar al-Assad. But what they're saying is the inspections are a little late. So in other words, they've already decided what activity they will do, and they will do those activities. Now here's the idea behind those activities. The rebel forces were losing in Syria badly, and the Assad government was taking command and control of the country. And what this is meant to do is to degrade the Syrian Air Force and certain other major tools that the Syrians have at their disposal. That's the whole idea behind this this exercise that they will come up with, probably using cruise missiles, big bombers, due to the terrain that Syria, Damascus area, and some of their military bases, that they've now been able to detect where certain assets are. Now remember, these so-called rebel forces are infiltrated with foreign intelligence services, i.e. the French, the British, the CIA, the Mossad, etc. So they've had what we used to call in the military field observers on the ground, and various mapping had been done, so they know where the assets are. And as far as the chemical weapons are concerned, it is a moot point, period. They're really not concerned with those. This is just a pretense to interfere there and degrade the assets. Now, once that's done, there are tons and billions of dollars of munitions flowing in from one of their crony nations, Turkey. And that money is being supplied by the same reactionary forces that are supplying money in Egypt, in the former Libya. We don't know what Libya is anymore, after the assassination of Colonel Gaddafi. So this is what it is all about in a nutshell. When will they do this? Senator Reid thinks perhaps they will wait until Congress returns. That'll be after the Labor Day recess, the first week in September. The president would get a special stamp of approval, a seal of approval from the Congress. However, that does not need to actually happen. He can order bombardments from naval forces with the cruise missiles send the bombers in, very strategic for a 6-hour situation, maybe 4 hours, and they would destroy 50% maybe of the Syrian air forces. They want to get the attack helicopters out of the sky. And as far as some of the batteries where missiles are, those batteries move around. They'll try to hit some of those, but if the Assyrians are smart, and a lot of these regimes have waited until it actually happened, and one will understand the amount of surveillance that they are under. Is a very, very hard situation. But they have to assess, and they should have already done this, where all their assets are, including planes, attack helicopters, and move those things around. And at the same time, they need to figure out some sort of counter balance in terms of whom they're going to attack. Missiles have to fly in the air, because make no mistake about it, these moves are meant to destroy the regime of Bashar al-Assad in Libya, to kill the members of the regime, including him, period. And if for some reason he is not killed, as some of the other people, they will quote-unquote be tried for quote-unquote war crimes. That's to send a message to other regimes. So the situation is with the Assyrians, they need to figure out what they need to do. From a military standpoint, they have to widen the conflict. That means into Lebanon, lobbing missiles into the Israeli state, and also into other regimes in that area. They need to open it up, because this is quote-unquote what the U.S. and its allies are doing, is turning this into a final call battle. So they need to rethink the whole, as they say, way of defending things. From the Russian Foreign Ministry, of course, they welcome the decision of the government there, and but cautioned outside powers from being hasty to assign blame and warn that any unilateral military action would have a devastating impact on the security. Now, you have to understand that the Lebanese borders part of the old Soviet Union are the Russian Republic. So these are situations that are intolerable from the Russian standpoint. And they also have a defense treaty with Syria. Now, as to how far the Putin regime will go with this is anyone's guess. At one time, the Soviets had a navy there that they could have defended Syria without a problem. Their navy, of course, due to the depression in the 90s, has been denigrated. Thus, they don't have the forces there that they once had. They do have a base there, but they do have rocket forces. Now, if they aim their rocket forces at certain targets in that area, we don't need to go into whom they would be, but you can just guess. Then that would be a quote-unquote game changer. In other words, if you attack our ally, we'll make sure that they're defended, and we will resupply them. And what are you going to do when you stop Russian ships? That's an act of piracy and an act of war. So this thing can literally be upchanged. It did not happen in Libya. It was an unfortunate situation, but Libya is a very small country. Now, Syria is not that large a country. It's one thing to all remember here as we close out. All these countries are very, very small in terms of their size and in terms of their population. But what they would like to do is disrupt the government, replace the government in Syria, and they now have a coup d'etat military government in Egypt. So that's the so-called Arab world. The Western powers control it all, including Saudi Arabia and the oil. So the wild card in this, again, is what the Iranians will do, what they will do in Lebanon with Hezbollah, and what will happen in various other regimes that are in that area. This is Bostonred on the 25th day of August, 2013, for the News in 10 on Bostonred on the World. Good evening.